Well, welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Breakfast Extra. And just like we said, yesterday was International Day of the Boy Child. And today we'll be taking a look at a conversation, about the emotional, mental well-being of boys and young men in Nigeria. Because for a really, really long time, society has actually told men to bottle up their emotions and also, be strong. But that mindset is actually proven really, really costly because there's been rising cases of substance abuse, violence, incarceration, and also suicide among young men. This is actually forcing a lot of people to rethink.
Yes, indeed. And so now advocates, faith leaders, mental health professionals, and even social justice campaigners are coming together to say boys need help too. And not just when things go wrong, but but from the very beginning as well. So we're asking, how can we raise more emotionally, I was going to say international boys, more emotionally intelligent, confident, and resilient young men? More emphasis on emotional intelligence before they fall through the cracks as well. So to help us unpack this, I'm joined by three powerful voices during this course of this conversation. Joining us today is Judith Aladesanmi. She's Executive Director for the Center of Legal Support and Inmate Rehabilitation. Also joining us is Dr. Gbonjubola Abiri, consultant psychiatrist and also associate lecturer of LASUTH, and also a friend of the house as well. She joins us here on the program. And also with to my right-hand side is Tunde Mclver. He is the he is a campus pastor at the Confident Nation. Gentlemen and ladies. Mclver, there we go. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you.
So much to unpack. Let me unsheath my sword because I've got a lot to say about this situation. Earlier, before you guys came in, I was telling Dash in here that I grieve my brothers. Even though they're now adults, young adults in some sense. Oh, there's one that's in his 30s, sorry. That's when you chat to me, a young adult, he's married with a kid, but yeah, you're still a young adult as far as I'm concerned. But I grieve when they were much younger, you know what I mean? And now they're older, there's a hot-headedness, there's a stubbornness, and I don't understand what that is. And so I have to ask the question. And I don't know if I should start with ladies first. So let me start with all the way down to that row there and talk about why are men not doing enough when it comes to the boy child? Why are the men not stepping up to the plate and creating safe spaces and being better role models for that?
Well, I think we have to really trace it back to, the expectations. In terms of what the society has constantly demands from boys and men eventually. And I think all of us have this understanding because we've grown up in an environment where boys are meant to be strong. Like, they're meant to be strong. Like, if it's not the tough one, don't call them there. You can't expect them to be weak. And this has gone, like, it has flown down from one generation to another generation, down to where we are right now. And you see that we're now at this point in life, or at this point in the society generally, where boys are now far at the back of the conversation, because there are attentions on women, which is great, but there's a way we need to balance the scale. We also need to consider boys too, male children too, and the effects of these mistakes can be seen at, considering the high numbers of young boys who are now in conflict with the law. The numbers are rising beyond what you can comprehend. And it's even much more shocking to know that majority, like for instance, where we work, which is the Correctional Center for Boys, you'll be surprised that majority of the children there are actually facing defilement cases, which simply means that there's a neglect, a huge neglect. So we've always come to, growing up, my mom would probably tell you, you're a girl, you can't just go out, you're this one, and then the boys have all of the freedom. Nobody's really putting in the check. And that's for me that has my parents been present. A lot of these boys do not even have their parents present. So they don't even, nobody's giving them, is putting them in check. And now we're coming into a society where there are a lot of young people, a whole lot of young boys, in conflict with the law. So it's a terrible situation we have right now.
Terrible situation indeed.
Let me pass the next. I was going to ask you, but let me just pass it to you, Dr. Abiri. You are a psychiatrist, and she talked about how the cases of defilement and all that. And I must say, it is becoming even more rampant. So, as a psychiatrist, what are the early warning signs for emotional distress in boys?
So, when I'm asked that sort of question, the first thing I usually say is sometimes there are no signs. And that's the very worrisome one, the fact that you may not be able to look out for anything. But if you want to individualize it to the boy child and say that what are some of the signs, again, it may be difficult to pick. Because, like, Jackie just said right here, this is a gender that is largely neglected. A lot of attention is not paid to. And people expect that, they're just able to show up for themselves and, comport themselves at all points in time. However, depending on the child that you have, which is why the emphasis is always on be present, be aware, be friends with your children, know what is going on. You'd find out that in a large number of households, and many times you may not be able to blame the parents all the way. You'd find that parents are not even available. A lot of parents wake up, have to leave the houses at about 5, leave the children in the care of, house helps, nannies, drivers, security guards, who unfortunately introduce a lot of, negative vices to these children. And parents are not available even on weekends sometimes because, you're busy chasing the paper. And so sometimes, what can you look out for? If it's a child that you know, then you know what the pattern of that child is. Unfortunately, if it's a child that you don't know, you may miss the early signs of emotional distress. So for instance, again, because we have normalized things like, societally, we've normalized things like, oh, boys don't cry, oh, suck it in, oh, you're a man, you should. And we've modeled a lot of these behaviors. Even when they struggle, you are unable to pick exactly what is going on. But some of the things, again, that you might find, while you may not find those subtle signs of, withdrawing to self, wanting to isolate, not wanting to interact with other people, you may then start to find what we will call externalizing behaviors. So externalizing behaviors like not following the rules, not, following the norms from home, being defiant. You ask them to do this, but, they want to do this. You get a lot of calls from school about how, they're problematic. And many times, all of these behaviors are actually a cry for help with these boys. Again, it may be dismissed as normal boy behavior. Normal boy behavior or general stubbornness. And so it would, fall through, the children are likely to fall through the cracks. And so externalizing behaviors that you may now start to see are, especially in adolescence, when they're trying to form what we know as identity or the identity versus role confusion. What you then find is that they are in gangs or, gangs that are questionable. Like, who are your friends? You find children starting to experiment with substances of abuse. You find children having a general disregard, for the opposite gender. I remember, speaking with a couple of children a few weeks ago, and I referred to a scene on social media where a girl had been physically assaulted by a boy in her class, and everybody else just stood and they were applauding. And when I asked this young boy to describe what he had seen, he was describing it extremely gleefully. That, for me, is worrisome.
That is
it's worrisome because it's now becoming, we're normalizing violence even in these young people. So those are some of the signs that you might start to see.
But Doctor, isn't our society already normalized violence towards women? I mean, when we look at our domestic homes, when we watch television and music, pop culture, Nigerian pop culture in and of itself, the way the songs, the artists, the way they write about women, the way they're portrayed in their music videos, it's wild. But let me come to you, Pastor. You are in the church, and I know for a fact, that parents bring their boys to the church oftentimes when they are tired. They let me take him to church. Let's pray. Please, Pastor, pray for this boy. I don't know what to do again. But what are you seeing in church? And just tell me in terms of, the issues that you are witnessing and how they're coping, with the church, really.
Okay, so from a pastoral point of view, I would say that there's a huge challenge that we have. And aside from the issues of even the way the society has portrayed our child in terms of wanting him to be in a particular way, and it's not only boys, but there's a huge addiction problem, drug addiction problem. And it's happening both to people who are coming to church and people that are not coming to church. In fact, a number of people that come to church are also addicted to drugs. Now, that comes from that could be as a result of certain things. Typically, nobody takes drug, somebody introduces them most times. it's a friend, I would say, that thing that you're feeling, this is how I deal with it. So I want to help you solve that, the way you're feeling, that inadequacy you're feeling. This is a way out to feel like a man. And of course, with drugs are, the starting, the journey is going to take you through. It's almost unbelievable. So that's one. But aside that, I think that what I see is that, so even when most times it's the mothers that bring them. So that's also a problem.
Thank you.
That's another
So why is it the mother's problem? Do you get? Why is the mother the one having to bring these issues up? Where is the father on this boy?
But considering that the fathers should be the ones who even understand the boys better.
I remember what I said earlier before they came on? It's always the men. I will always say this to, I don't know, maybe till the skies go falling down, that it has to be the men. Because the men understand the puberty journey. And they understand the psyche and the mindset of a boy better than a woman will ever be, because they have walked those shoes. And again, I will always ask, why are men not championing the cause of the boy child? Women are doing it when it comes to the girl child. We've seen WIMBIs, we've seen all kinds of organizations who have come out and be the fore. They have mentored women, who come from entry level. There are mentorship programs that are being championed by women. There are spaces for women who are going through sexual abuse. So much safe spaces, but never men. Why, Pastor?
Okay, so what I would say is that it's not a good thing. And even while I'm trying to prefer solutions for these issues, because I'm dealing with another gender, the solution I'm providing, she's not able to keep to the terms of it. She brings the boy, he's addicted. He wants him to change today. To stop taking
the mother's
drugs.
love now.
Exactly.
Mother's
Any
love.
small mistake he
She
makes,
wants a miracle.
she calls me. But if you're dealing with a father, you can explain the logic behind the process within which this thing will take. These are the things you will have to do. That even when he's acting contrary, don't react. Do this, do this. It's very difficult to do that with a woman. Not because she's bad. You know how women are. The emotions. So she's emotionally responding sometimes to the point of beating the boy. And I'm saying this boy is addicted. He doesn't even know how to come out of addiction. So when you are beating him, you are worsening the situation because he's now even feeling worse about himself. I'm upsetting my mother, but I don't want to upset her. I'm struggling with an addiction. But if you're dealing with a man and you explain the process, you can logically understand that, okay, this process requires time. There are things we have to do over a period of time to win this boy from it. So I'm not going to be reacting to what he's doing. I'm going to be following the instructions I'm being given to get him out of the cycle. It's not impossible with a woman, but it's a lot more difficult because she just wants this boy to change. Like,
it's a mother's love. It's a mother's love, right? I mean, I say it every single time that I grieve that younger years. I want them back. That tenderness. Now they're all close up and shut off. There's this wall, and you can see the seal between. As like you're trying to penetrate and get in, it's like, it's just there. You can't help it. But again, where are the fathers? Where are the men?
So the men are here. At least I'm here. I have to say myself that I'm here, and this is. So I'll give an example. I have two kids. So I have a son who's the younger one, and the only way to raise a confident child is that the father has to be present. It is very difficult. I was lucky because my father was not present. He's late now, present memory, but was not present.
May you so rest in peace.
But I would say that I learned the thing that I learned about being a man from church. That means the only person that taught what was wrong and right was my pastor. So I was lucky enough not to have listened to somebody else before I met him.
All right.
So.
Let me come to you, Judith. Now, your work, highlights an intersection between justice and healing, and I'm all for healing, by the way. So do you think that our justice system is actually equipped enough to address some of the trauma that these boys actually go through?
Especially in juvenile delinquency situations.
I would say an outright no.
Try.
I would say that the system is still very focused on punitive measures. Thus, you've made a mistake, you should pay for it. While I'm not here talking about what the provisions of the law, we also need to understand that there is so much of, you know, criminal acts that goes beyond just the act itself. And for instance, for young people, so we work with not just juveniles, even, you know, those in the adult prisons as well, but for the purpose of this conversation, right? From our interactions with the boys, you can see that a lot of them got into the problem they got into because there was just no guidance. They would or they could have turned out better. Now you have a situation where a boy child of 13 years old is accused or arrested for defiling a girl child of 8 years old. Mind you, they are both minors. No matter how you want to look at it, they are both minors. The boy child is arrested and locked up in prison. Of course, the girl child is not there. And that's not the area of the conversation. But for me, beyond the fact that we want to keep this boy in the correctional facility, are we also asking questions about what is happening? When you're seeing a 9-year-old boy raping another person, it goes beyond the heart. It goes beyond the fact that, oh, he just slept with someone. It goes beyond it. He should be sitting down. So for me, the juvenile centers should not just be the correctional facilities. There should be a standard, you know, structure that looks deeply into their psychological states and how they can help them, how they can get out. Because on the long run, you have children who are now getting punished for a mistake they do not even know the gravity of. So for instance, they commit sexual offenses. To them, they don't understand the gravity. They've seen it happen. They've seen it on social media. They just want to try it. Some of them do not even know that maybe he's wrong. I've had conversation with some of them and they're like, you know, me, everybody on the streets, they've been sleeping with the girl, me, and now they're not arrested. So they don't even still understand the gravity of it. So you're punishing them for the heart. Now the problem there is this: if they eventually come out, because once the court let them go, you can't hold them down. If they eventually get out there, they are still not going to get better.
They become more vengeful.
Of course, they are not going to get better. So while we're trying to look at the provisions of the law and how it affects them, there is need for us to help them to be better adults. Because even the law, you know, is actually much more mild when it comes to children. But in the midst, it's not enough to say, okay, we don't sentence them to death when they commit murder. We don't know. It's beyond that. How can they be better persons? So they are not suffering at 20 for a crime they committed when they were hit.
Are we complicit, Dr. Abiri? It's a society. I mean, I have drawn out my sword for men today. So are men complicit in these things? And I will say this, right? I've always said that they should seize all the microphones, or all the men on podcasts, seize their mics until you will start to champion, you know, for men and stuff. Because I realized that younger boys don't listen to women. Younger boys, teenage boys, if you're a woman and you're in front of them telling them the issues of life, they're looking at you like you're a clown. They're looking at you like you got like a dead chicken on your head. But if it's a man that's in front of them, their eyes would be glowing, you know, and there are things they want to hear. There are certain things they want to hear that man say. And if it's not stroking their ego, they're not. If it's not inciting some level of, you know, I don't know what it is. I don't want to say violence, but there's something in there, some animal in them, that beast. They're not listening. So are we all complicit in this? Are men complicit in what we're seeing with our boys today? And I'm talking about this in terms of incels and red pill.
Well, so the first thing I want to say in response to all of this is the good book says that if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? It always goes back to the roots. Largely because a lot of the symptoms, a lot of things that we see are actually symptoms. And so if you keep running after the symptoms or the bad fruits, it'll go back. But if you go back to the root, then you're able to, you know, bring it out, deal with the issues, and probably replant. Instead of collecting all the mics from all the men who are doing podcasts, I think we should actually, you know, give them a thumbs up. A couple of men, you know, hold programs for the International Day of the Boy Child. And so when we start to see men who are championing these causes, I think we should give them an opportunity, a chance to put their voices out there. There was something you said earlier on, that men they understand puberty. No, they experienced it. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that they understand what they've gone through. I think that there's less effort by the male gender, a significant number of the male gender, and so I'm not going to generalize. I think there's there's lesser effort as compared with women to find out what is growth for me, what is puberty, what is going on. You'd find that women are quite inquisitive, in spite of the fact that a lot of women are emotional, and yes, a lot of our reasoning is emotional. You'd also find that quite a number of women are logical, which is why men are logical.
And technical as well. That's why they go dig. I wonder for them. I don't know. I'm saying, so they marry for wealth. It's practical. It takes a lot of logic to do that. This is like, tactics to do that. Say I'm going after a rich man. Don't do it as if you can get this right.
It's in a girl stuff. But the honest truth is, at the end of the day, whether women have emotional minds or men have logical minds, the best sort of minds to have is the wise mind. A mind that is inquisitive, hungry for knowledge, a mind that finds something and not just understands that knowledge, but what is the right application of that knowledge. A lot of the things that we see today will continue to happen, largely because, like you've said, modeling is a huge form of learning. Children, especially young boys, look up to their fathers. They see them as, models. They see them as people they want to be like. They see them as people that, this is it for me. And if there's no mentor, which is something I think is extremely important that we need to start doing. If women, for instance, find that their partners are present but not available. You can be present but you're not available. You're not emotionally available for that child. We also need to start, paying attention to the things that our children watch. What is informing their decisions? You'd find that a lot of teenagers now, you're asking them, so what do you like? What kind of music? They're saying K-drama, K-pop. We're in Nigeria, but they're being influenced by, all of that goes on. So again, we need to pay attention to the things that are influencing them. We need to pay attention to the things that interest them. But one major thing that I find is that if you don't find those things at home, because a lot of the problems at home, if you see a large percentage of the children that we see at the correctional centers, for instance, are children who have gone through what we call adverse childhood experiences. A parent using substance, or both parents using substance, or coming from a dysfunctional home setting, or the partner, or one is in the legal system, or children who have seen domestic violence from a very young age. So there's a lot that we may not be able to change, but there's a lot that we can start to put in place to ensure that the trajectory.
Just in a few minutes, I want to ask Pastor, which is the main question that I thought you were going to ask him at first. As someone who is a man, someone who has experienced being a boy, someone who has moved around with other men, and someone who is raising a son at the moment, how can we raise emotionally intelligent boys?
Very good question. So the Bible, Proverbs 22:6 says that raise a child in the way he should go, and when he grows up, he will depart from it. The foundation for solving is how you raise the child. Now, one of the things that I do deliberately, so there are what they call learning moments when you're raising children. So those moments are very important. So when my son does something, because children, for instance, they go to school, you don't know where the other children from school are coming from. So you pick up things from...
I was going to get there. You
can train your child properly, and the child goes to school.
Environmental impact.
So when my son comes back home and does something, there's something we have never done that kind of thing in the house. When he does it, I'll call him. I'll say, have you ever seen me do this to your mom? Have you ever seen me do this in this house? When I tell him, he keeps quiet. I say, whatever you don't see us do in this house,
please don't bring it here.
I'll give you an example. Something happened, it was yesterday. Boys, I don't know, I'm a psychologist, probably you'll understand it, but my son struggles to listen to our elder sister.
What did I say here?
Always say, you can't tell me what to do. I don't want to say she's your sister, you have to listen to her. However, she did something yesterday. I don't know what happened. I don't know what the other sister did. And he called the other sister a bastard.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Now, I'm a pastor. In my house, in the morning, they're eating breakfast, and my son calls sister a bastard.
Oh, what's the age gap?
He's 6, the elder sister is 9.
That's 3 years. 3 years.
3 years. And he says, bastard, I've never beaten my son physically. I knew that this one, I have to make sure that when you remember,
it comes to the memory.
He was going to school. I told him, get up from the dining table, kneel down. I brought out my belt because I could not, because that is he didn't get it from the house. Obviously, somebody in the school calls him a bastard. Obviously.
And that was the learning.
I wanted to remove that sting of that thing from him forever. So I knelt, I beat him well. He cried. And I said, will you ever do this again? He said, Daddy, I will. Because I've never beaten him before.
Wait until you get to teenagers, because look, I wish you have enough time. Because wait till you get to teenagers, and wait till when he becomes an adult as well. Because that's a conversation. I wish we had enough time, because we're out of time. I wish we can get to that point of where we're raising boys to be emotionally intelligent, and then they decide to go to either boarding school or university, mingle with it. Because you can do all you can, check all the boxes, be right. But it's either social media is there, the lesser demon, or society, or friends, or even just a warped individual. Look, my brothers were raised in the midst of girls, and then all of a sudden now women are an issue. Now God now blessed him with a daughter. You know, I'm like, I love it for you, my man. It's like I'm surrounded with women. I can help it. I'm like, well, good luck to you, baby, because you got more girls coming your way. His wife is busy dressing my niece as a boy, hoping to get to her. But I'm like, too late, because that's a girl. You know what I mean? Like, she's so girly, it's insane. You have more girls coming your way. It's too late. But it's a nice corporal punishment from the fates and heavens, and maybe more girls will be in your life as well. Blessed are among. Even the good book says, guys, I wish we can continue this conversation. I wish there was enough time. I do hope that you guys come back on so we can continue this conversation when it comes to raising emotionally intelligent boys. And I hope that the conversation doesn't end here as well, that it continues, that we start to have conversations at home, at our workplaces, at the church, our worship places, and also in our clubs and common grounds as well. This is where we draw the curtains. Thank you again, Dr. Abiri, Aladesanmi, and of course, Pastor as well, Pastor Mclver. Many thanks as well for tuning in.